Almost a century ago, the greatest crash in Wall Street history completely turned the world upside down. But this isn't just a history lesson. By really digging into what happened back in 1929, we can see these shocking echoes in our world right now, and maybe, just maybe, understand what might be coming next.
So this is the big question, right? Could it happen again? Are we, right now, living in some kind of prequel to a similar economic earthquake? To even begin to answer that, we have to look at the parallels. And let me tell you, some of them are incredibly stark.
Okay, look at this. Back in the 1920s, the hot new tech was radio. The stock everyone had to own was RCA. Its ticker symbol was literally radio. And investors were absolutely convinced it would fundamentally reshape society. Does that sound at all familiar? Because today, it's AI. Stocks like Nvidia are at the very center of this speculative frenzy, and it's all driven by the exact same world-changing belief. It's like looking in a mirror from 100 years ago.
To really get this, we have to understand the whole vibe of the Roaring '20s. This wasn't just a market boom, you see. It was a complete cultural revolution that basically laid all the groundwork for the frenzy that followed.
It's kind of wild to think about, but before this era, borrowing money was seen as a moral failure, like a personal sin. But then that all changed. First, General Motors started offering credit so people could buy cars. Then Sears did it for refrigerators and washing machines. And then the banks had this revolutionary idea, hey, why don't we lend people money to buy stocks? And just like that, the idea of democratizing finance was born. Suddenly, brokerage houses were popping up like Starbucks, and anyone, your butcher, your baker, could get in on the game, gambling with borrowed cash.
And what a game it was. I mean, forget a slow and steady climb. In 1928 alone, the market shot up 48%. By September of 1929, it was up a mind-boggling 90% from the start of the previous year. It really felt like a party that was never, ever going to end.
Now, history isn't just about charts and numbers. It's really about people. And the 1920s, well, they had some larger-than-life characters who were driving this whole thing. You had everyone from the ultimate insider to the ultimate gambler.
So first up is Thomas Lamont. This was the guy really running JP Morgan, which was the most powerful bank in the world at the time. You could call him the ultimate smoozer-in-chief, a man who genuinely believed he could steer the course of history just by talking to the right people.
Lamont's whole philosophy was pretty simple. Get the right guys in a room and you could control the world. He was having dinner with Hoover, with Roosevelt, even with Mussolini, always whispering in the right ears, totally convinced he could manage this boom. He really thought he had it all under control. Well, he was wrong. All right, our next player is Charles Mitchell, the CEO of National City Bank. Now, if Lamont was the ultimate insider, Mitchell was the public face of the boom. He's the guy who pioneered the whole idea of lending money to the masses so they could buy stocks. And they called him Sunshine Charlie for a reason. His entire job was to sell the dream, to keep the optimism flowing no matter what. He was kind of like the Jamie Dimon of his day, a celebrity CEO who just embodied the relentless, smiling confidence of the era, right up until the police showed up at his mansion.
And then there was Jesse Livermore. He was sort of the dark soul of the market. He was a short seller, meaning he was betting on stocks to go down. So as the market was just screaming upwards, he was getting nearly wiped out. But in the fall of 1929, he made one of the most legendary trades of all time, walking away with over $100 million. But he lost it all again and, tragically, later took his own life. Just a true cautionary tale.
So here's a really crucial point. The crash of '29 wasn't just one bad day. That whole image of a single, one-day disaster, it's pretty much a myth. The reality was much more of a slow, agonizing collapse. It was like a series of dominoes falling, one after the other, for years.
And the weapon that caused all the damage was something called a margin call. See, it wasn't just that your stock portfolio went down. It was that you had borrowed maybe 90% of its value to buy it in the first place. So when the price fell, the bank didn't just want the stock back. They wanted their cash back immediately. This is how guys like Groucho Marx didn't just lose their investments. They had to actually mortgage their homes to pay back the bank. It was catastrophic.
And then a series of bad decisions just made everything infinitely worse. The market crashes in late '29. Then, in 1930, Washington passes these things called the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which literally everyone was warning against. Global trade collapsed by 60%. Then the banks started failing, one after another. And by 1933, a quarter of the entire country was unemployed. A market crash had morphed into the Great Depression.
So in the wake of this total catastrophe, the country basically decided never again. The government built a whole series of financial guardrails, things designed specifically to prevent this kind of systemic collapse from ever happening again.
You have to remember, back in the 20s, there were literally no rules. Insider trading was just how you did business. Markets were constantly manipulated. The New Deal changed all of that. Glass-Steagall separated the risky investment banking from your everyday commercial banking. The SEC was created to be a cop on the Wall Street beat. For the very first time, there were rules.
But here's the unsettling part. Right now, there's a push to reduce corporate transparency. There are new rules that would let regular people invest in super high-risk private equity for the first time. We've seen a steady loosening of banking regulations. It really feels like we are systematically dismantling the very guardrails that were built to protect us from this exact thing.
Which, of course, brings us right back to today. You know, they say the phrase "this time is different" are the four most expensive words in the English language. But are they? Is it different this time?
I mean, the parallels are just hard to ignore. We've got wild market speculation, not just in AI, but in crypto and meme stocks. We have a widening gap between the rich and the poor, which was a defining feature of the Roaring '20s. And of course, we see the rise of celebrity CEOs, people hailed as visionaries who can do no wrong. It's a very familiar cocktail.
Now, to be fair, it's not all bad. We have to be honest here. You kind of need some speculation to fuel progress, right? For every world-changing company like Tesla, someone had to take an absolutely insane risk early on. The trick is knowing where that line is, the line between productive risk-taking and just a destructive groupthink bubble.
This quote from a former Citigroup CEO right before the 2008 crash, it just says everything. This is the psychology of a bubble. The music is playing loud, everyone around you is dancing and getting rich, and the fear of being the only one sitting on the sidelines, that fear becomes greater than the fear of the crash itself.
Ultimately, maybe this is the timeless lesson. The technologies change, the players have different names, but that human desire to get rich quick, to believe that this time is different, that never, ever changes. The party is always great. The real question isn't if the music will stop, it's whether the guardrails we got last time are strong enough for the party we're having today.